This is where the fun begins.
And I've always leaned towards if we're going to create something, we should check and see if it existed already to the fans, because it has way more value if we bring that in. And it's like, why would I just replace it with something new? So if we're going to do an admiral, if we're going to do a big military leader, yeah, I could create a new guy, sure. But what about Thrawn? Thrawn is great. Thrawn is a character we all know. Thrawn has a lot of credibility. So then you ask yourself, is it right to use him? And can we use him in a way that's similar to the books? Or are we using him and it's going to go completely into left field? And there have been times when we wanted to use things from the EU, and I was like, yeah, but we can't use it that way, so why? I don't want to use it and change it. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't want to use it and make it something completely different. That's rude.
Are you sure? So be it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thursday Morning CAF Chat. I'm your host, Alora Baga, and of course, you are on the OG Star Wars channel, where we specifically honor and love George Lucas era of Star Wars, and also get into what is going on in the quote-unquote modern Star Wars news, talk about lore, cringe factor, and anything else that we feel we need to discuss and cover. And if you're joining me on the replay, let me know, leave a comment. And if you're not subscribed, anyone who's listening in now in the chat or replay, subscribe. Let's build this channel up. This is one of the leading channels in George Lucas era of Star Wars. And the focus is, pre-Disney content primarily. And so let's make this channel blossom into something greater, bigger, better than a lot of channels out there. Yeah, that kind of sounds egotistical, right? But what I mean by that is like, this is a way to keep George Lucas era Star Wars in front of everybody, even those who hate the EU. Yeah, so thank you guys for dropping in and hanging out with me. And what is in your mug? So what are you enjoying right now? Of course, me, it's always coffee. And so I have a bit of coffee with a little bit of cream, a little bit of sugar, just enough to just give it a nice little slight sweet taste and creamy. And that's it. Yeah. So what is today's CAF Chat going to be about? Well, we do have a new segment going on, and I'm going to get into the chat and start interacting with you guys here pretty quick. But we have a new segment here, and it's called Lucas Facts. And I did share something earlier before we got started, before we really, got started here with the show. And so I'm asking you guys, if you know any Lucas facts that may not be well known, share them in the chat, just to celebrate this new little segment of Star Wars, in CAF Chat. Basically, I got myself tongue twisted here. My mind was going faster than what I could speak. That happens sometimes. Yeah, so if you have any interesting facts from Lucas, it could be him as a person. It could be him in making other movies, like Indiana Jones. It could be him Star Wars related. It can be him EU related. It could be him, making other like being the ghost creator for other movies like Labyrinth. So anything like that. So if you have anything that right today that you feel is not well known, that's a Lucas fact or information or something you want to share about George Lucas to celebrate this new segment, feel free to share. So let me see what's going on in the chat. Smash the like button and share the stream out. And thank you, Soul Assassin. So if you didn't have a chance to watch my live stream yesterday, after you're done here, if you have time or when you have time, go check it out. I did address this targeted harassment campaign that Acolyte Disney Shills have put out yesterday morning on Twitter, which was crazy because I watched this whole shit go down. I, woke up to go get ready to go teach yoga, and it was about like before 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I go on Twitter because I was like, let's see what's going on Twitter, because I always, it's my part of my platform for this channel. I share a lot on Twitter. I communicate a lot on Twitter, particularly all things Star Wars and AKA the Disney Star Wars, the whatever. And I seen it all go down. I seen the first post, and then they started popping up like popcorn, like it was like popcorn, popping out, showing up on my feed. I like when I was scrolling down, and I was on my phone. When I was scrolling down on my app, that's all I seen was those that manifesto of wanting to cancel basically and take people's rights away as YouTube creators, basically. That call for. And then so I shared that out and all. So I decided after my day slowed down, I decided to do a live stream and talk about it. And so if you haven't had a chance to check that out, do so when you have a chance. Leave a comment. Maybe you've seen something different or something else, or you have a opinion or anything you want to share. Leave comments in that live. Well, it's not live anymore, but leave a comment in the video there. All right, so let's see here. And follow OG here. Of course, I'm on X. I just got done talking about that. And I have a merch store. So if you want to support my art, last night I was honored to be a guest on Dark Council. And so I got to discuss my coming art show, which most of you guys know. It's September 2025. So that's what I've been working on, preparing for. I have like 3 art pieces going on right now. And so that's coming up. And so actually all my merch that you can buy is something that I painted or created myself, like digitally or painted. So, and it's all Star Wars related, of course, in that store. So go ahead and check it out. If you want to support, if you like what you see, go ahead and purchase something. You can get it a t-shirt, a mug, what have you. And then catch Rhino's stream here. So tonight he should be going live for Raging Rhino. I will probably be in the chat modding and, chatting up with you guys and with Rhino as well. So again, I feel right now, and I've discussed this and also had this realization, I guess you can say, that there's so much that goes on with creating a channel, your platform, based upon what you want to talk about. Again, mine is mainly George Lucas era of Star Wars. And then you have the other channels that are basically pop culture. So they go into different genres or IPs of franchises. And a lot of these channels, including mine, we've all streamed together at one point. We all supported each other at one point. And now there's this huge division, and it's all about, I don't know, it feels like, or it looks like, I would like to say looks like more than to get into the feelings of this. It looks like, once your channel gets to a certain status of subscribers and all that, it's like we forget who we started with, who we supported, who supported us. And, that support system fails and falls apart. And then we feel alienated, or we feel like we it's us against them kind of deal. So we're in a particular peculiar time. So I was so happy to be on Dark Council last night. I'm always happy to support Rhino's channel, whether I am on his, stream, his live or not. And other channels, and that goes with Open Airlock, our United Spacers Alliance. Tim split up his segments or his shows or his panelists. I don't know how to describe this, but he decided to do a live stream on Wednesday and keep the one Friday. So half of us went to the Wednesday, and then a portion, like 2/3 of us went with him on Wednesday, and 1/3 stays with him on Friday. So there's that right there. So if you don't see me on Wednesday, it's not that we had a division or anything in there. It's just what Tim wants to do for his channel. So again, I'm trying not to. I'm looking at this in an analytical way and in a respectful way, and just letting everybody know that, what I see, what I think, and what's going on. So yeah, so if you haven't had a chance to catch Airlock Control Room last night, feel free to go back and watch it, especially about the segments if you're interested in it, regarding that target harassment campaign by the Disney Acolyte Chills. And I didn't stay on for them when they talked about other things. However, there's different segments still there. He still has the Bootyverse or expanded Bootyverse and all that other stuff. So it's still similar to the spacing we had on Friday. So go check that out. And then Friday night, of course, check us out on the spacing, I guess you could say. All right. So Darth Paws, hello there, everyone. And how are you doing? Cheers to you. And I was giggling at this one here. Soul Assassin says Satil, Sean, and Jace Malcolm really messed up Malgus. Yeah. And so today, and I didn't even tell you guys exactly what the topics are today. All right. So here we go. I just went on, talking about how I'm seeing creators on YouTube and how we were all supporting each other at one time, and now it feels like there's a division and all this other stuff. And then and how I still like to continue to support channels despite me being on or being with them in live streams. It's always an honor to be a guest. All right. And I really don't have any guests on here, and I apologize. It's morning time. A lot of people that I do bring on are at work right now. So that's the thing right there, is the timing of this live stream. All right. So with the schedule today, of course, Lucas Facts, which we will get into right away. I want that to be one of the first segments in CAF Chat. Then our lore, we're going back to Sith lore, and we're getting into a couple of campaigns, Sith campaigns that are in the Book of Sith. I think there's about 6 pages or something like that. So it doesn't have everything. So if you're privy to all the Sith campaigns and everything that they've done because of the game, the books and stuff, of course, this book doesn't have it all because it's designed to be missing information, and all this other stuff. And then we'll get into Book of the Week. And then the Star Wars news basically is what I covered yesterday, because I knew that if I covered it here on CAF Chat, that it would take up most of the time. So again, if you want to catch that video, feel free to do it on your time. And then of course, Cringe Factor. So there we go. All right. And Star Wars Scran is here. Hello. How are you doing? Let's see here. And then let's see here. Another interesting question, you guys. Why are all Sith bald? Dark side effects are just fashion choice. Well, we know why Anakin went bald. He basically got burned up. So his hair got basically singed away and never grew back. So interesting question on that. I don't know. Sidious, though, I think he still had hair. I don't have to take a look. I think he still had hair. It's a fashion statement. Maybe because by the time they're fully consumed, they look like old grandpas. I don't know. Hello there. How are you doing, Sir Calda? And I also wanted to add a small segment for the Lord of the Rings talk, but that is being still planned. I did see the Ring of Powers had another episode out, and I understand that they're using they are using like dialogue from Lord of the Rings and actual books for characters that weren't even said any of that in the Second Age. So that's kind of interesting right there. I'm gonna look more into that. Filling my mug up now, or filling my mug now. Filling your mug now. I don't know. Can you, Filoni? Yeah, can you? Rude. And then we have, excuse me, we have double A. Hail OG, we gotta put these crybaby soy sauce thin skin Disney Star Wars fake fans in their place. That's a lot right there. You put a lot of venom in that one. Listen to Abu's single last night. The music is fire. Yeah, I did share the single out right now. And tomorrow his album does release. So stay tuned for that. And go support him on Spotify. Follow him. I'm pretty sure once everything drops, it's going to be on Spotify too. So support him. He's supported the community so much, and a lot of his creativity is shared on Dark Council. In fact, if you have not had a chance to watch any of his videos or him on Dark Council, he shares his talent there. So check that out. Support him. Again, a huge supporter of the channel, as well as George Lucas era of Star Wars and many of us in the community. So check it out. Let's see here. I got my gallon of water to enjoy. Good. Water is good for you. And hello, Gordon. How are you doing? Let's see. People are slowly dropping in, and thank you for participating, coming in and hanging out. All right, so first, Lucas facts. Lucas owned a comic store, I believe. Yes, he did. That comic, like visual art and visual storytelling, is something that he adored. And that goes into filming and stuff like that, and even comics. So like when people say, oh, George never read anything, so that means it's not canon. The E is not canon because George didn't read it. He particularly read the comics. Because comics, mind you, they do have text. You do still have to read, but then you also are visually reading. Sometimes you have panels without any words, but you know what's going on if the artist is good at visual storytelling. And so that was one of George's things. He wanted to get into the arts. So his story is the arts, anthropology, and then filming. He found out he was really good in film, and that really paid off. That really paid off for him. Something that's apparently not well known is that he micromanaged Empire Strikes Back. Correct. So we haven't really gotten to my segment yet, but I'm just sharing anyways what you guys are saying about George. There's been more historical support for the Acolyte after it ended than there was during the airing. Right. That's quite funny. Lucas had Spielberg guest direct part of episode 3. All right, let's see here. And Lucas described himself as a Methodist Buddhist. That guy, he's I'm not saying crazy in a bad way, but he's crazy. He's crazy. He's not in a bad way. I thought you were in chat with us last night. On the Dark Council or on Airlock Controlled. Because I was in the chat there off and on. But not for Ripa and all the other talk. I had other things to do, and that needed my attention. Lucas said that Jedi were supposed to be like a mix between federal marshals and samurai. Okay, I haven't heard that one, so that's interesting. Sidious wasn't bald. And Diddley Squad, how are you doing? Okay, Lucas had to contend with a huge destructive sandstorm in both A New Hope and the Phantom Menace in Tunisia, or I'm saying that wrong. Yeah, but anyways, that's correct. I remember that one. you didn't miss anything just yet. We're just getting into Lucas facts and stuff, and I'm still going through the chat, engaging and everything, and then we'll get into the lore and Lucas facts and all that. Let's see here. Would it be overstepping to invite you to Lord of the Rings server? We discuss all details over. You know what? If you want to, I would love to be in that server. That would be great. I don't, visit a lot of like Discords and stuff. I don't have a habit of checking in on Discords in the areas, but that would be fun. I wouldn't mind, and I would be honored. Let's see here. Very nice. Hey there, Melissa Lord. How are you doing? Channel member here. Lucas Skywalker's ranch was a fully operational ranch when George was running it. He had a lot of stuff going on there. I mean, it was so functional for him. So it was amazing. Let's see here. My first Star Wars comic was the Ghost Prison. Oh, damn, really? Okay. And then I'm afraid this ranch is quite operational. Excuse me. I've been sleeping with a new fan on, and it's been blowing directly at me. And so I woke up with my throat and stuff feeling a bit scratchy. That sucks. Fun fact, if you say OG 3 times in a chat, she'll appear in a chat, but in a good mood is up to be debated. Oh my goodness. That's so funny. Let's see here. She's the little red lights on the clone trooper's helmet and antenna says THX 1138. Yeah. All right, you guys. So like I said, and I don't have a segment clip made just yet. I have a couple ideas on what to use. So that will be for next week. But we are going to get into basically the Lucas facts. And this is something that's going to be short and sweet. It's not something that will be, very extensive unless we do get into a bigger conversation about it. But what I wanted to share, because there's a lot of people that says, oh, George never had anything planned out or written out for Star Wars. And so I wanted to share, and I should have just took an image of the pages that I'm going to share with you. This proves them wrong. All right. So basically annotations and interviews by Lawrence with George. So, Lawrence is sharing basically what George was responsible when it came to what was written and stuff. And we're talking about Star Wars, what we call A New Hope now. So annotations on Star Wars, A New Hope are based on the following materials, all written by George Lucas. Partial handwritten outline entitled Journals of the Whills, handwritten list of characters, handwritten list of planets, the Star Wars synopsis, the Star Wars May, and this is a date with it, May 1973, treatments typed from original notes. And then May 1974, the Star Wars, the rough draft. And then you have the original, or the Adventures of Luke Starkiller, episode 1, the Star Wars, which was written May 1st, 1975, story synopsis. And then July 1974, the first draft. And then again, Adventures of Starkiller, episode 1, the Star Wars, and that was written January. So that was revised or continued on January 28th, 1978. So you see what's going on here is that way long before George really, well, I'd say he proposed. I didn't get the proposal date on this movie, but he did have it planned out. He had the story, he had the characters, he had the list of characters, he had the treatments and ideas, all of that. And that all sprung from Journal of the Whills as well. And original handwritten notes on the January 30th, 1975. And it goes on to various information from Adventures of Luke Starkiller taken from the Journal of the Whills, Saga 1, the Star Wars January 1st, 1976, fourth draft with George Lucas's original notes. So that's the fourth draft. And so you see where Luke Starkiller basically comes from, and then the name changed, right? And then, of course, the fourth, not the right one. And then the fourth draft battle retyped on January 1st, 1976. And the fourth draft battle copy of original new pages with suggested scene numbers. So you see the development here of how everything expands. So when you, and I'm not going to read the rest of them, but you have an idea, and this is Lucas facts, that he had the story planned out. In fact, his story was written so far out that it had all details that could lead into episode 5 and 6, which they all went and evolved according to the story. So everything that he written for The Adventures of Luke Starkiller had changed up a lot, and that's how story development happens from the original draft to the final draft. You see the evolution of the story, decisions made of like, this doesn't fits well, or this character name doesn't feel like it fits, or I have a better name, or this character needs to be human other than another species, so you have that synergy of creativity and that ebb and flow of change that all creators do in their creative process in writing their fictional stories or their stories in general. And this will lead into our cringe factor. That's why I chose this, because cringe factors, basically it's about George Lucas couldn't care about the lore, only story. What does that tell you? The lore is the story. You have to have and we'll get more into this, you have to have your rules set for your story. You have to have continuity set for your story. Lore is story. So let's see here. What are you guys saying? I found it visiting a comic shop, and it completely enthralled me. I need to slow down. That would make a perfect Vader movie, but glad Disney isn't touching it, right? Let's see. Gordon says all of George's children are adopted, I think. Yeah, except for his latest baby girl, or she's 10 now. But she basically is him and his wife. So basically and the situation with that one is that they had a surrogate mother. So the mom didn't carry her, but she is basically George and his wife, if that makes sense. So Gentis was a great sympathetic antagonist. Yeah. I'm so glad, like, I sometimes, like, that's one of the comics or one of the piece of lore that I hardly hear, like, or similar ones like that, people first reading. Usually it's something that's very popular, like the Thrawn trilogy, what have you. So that I'm not surprised in a bad way. I'm surprised in a good way. The Skywalker name in real life is a real life name. Yeah, in fact, I was like, is there any natives that have that name? And yes, there is, but I think they're up in Canada or something like that. I looked it up. I'm a nerd like that. I was like, because it sounds kind of native. I think I'll look it up and see if there's any families like that. And then Gordon says, Lucas always hand wrote the first draft of all Star Wars episodes. Yes. And he even had to write the story, the screenplays too, for the situations that were happening during the time of planning Empire Strikes Back. So that's another interesting fact right there. Stover said that Lucas also edited the Revenge of the Sith novel, and it was a very detailed editing down to the point of even names and terms were corrected and some dialogue fixed according to the screenplay. Yes, he was very involved with that as well. On a legal pad. Yeah. So he had all his notes. I mean, is there rules to how you write out your story and what you write your story out on? So when people try to use he wrote everything on a legal pad, like notes and stuff. And there's sometimes when I am trying to come up with a concept of a piece of art that I end up using a notepad for, and I write, and I sketch out that art piece on that. Doesn't mean that it's not valid. The idea that's coming from my head to pin to the pencil onto paper isn't valid, right? So you see how people try to use that and discredit oh, well, it was on sketch, it was on a notebook, and there was hardly anything there. Yeah, I did run into people who try to discredit George that way too, so that's really crazy. So I'm not trying to say you are you are Gordon trying to discredit him. I'm just saying that I have ran into people who are very anti George Lucas, say that. Bail Organa was originally Bail Antilles. Yes. Let me see. And George's favorite Star Wars spoof was Hardwire Wars. No, I didn't know that. I'm going to have to look into that. All right, so let's start getting into the lore. Let me see what Soul Assassin says. OG was more novel than comics, and I was opposite. Chat, but did you read more comics or novels? There you go. That's a good question. I loved just sitting there reading my imagination. I appreciate comic art and stuff like that. I just didn't pick them up as much as I did the novels and stuff. But my appreciation for what was created and realizing that we're not going to get any more because Disney decided to halt all EU production made me have a lot more respect for the lore within the comics. I'm not saying I didn't respect them, because you have the Clone Wars multimedia project that has amazing stories in there. It's just I'd rather read a novel. But now it's like, damn, the art, especially when you get into some of the Republic and the Legacy comics, that's amazing. The stories are amazing. It's like, if you could put this in a novel, holy crap, just imagine the other details that could be put in the novel, based upon the pictures and the mood and what's going on and all that stuff. So when you have great art, great dialogue, and great scenes, which is art, I guess you could say, are moods that are created from the scenes, you have a great story as a comic. And I think that's what a lot, I'm not saying all, but a lot of the Star Wars comics did for us, right? And I appreciate it even more now. And I wish I would have just picked them up and read them when I was younger, but I didn't, but there's always a time for that, right? And so I'm enjoying myself. I do know the lore, particularly where the comics run through in the timeline, but picking up those comics makes it even more expansive for me. The weird thing about this document, it was never notarized. Yeah. There's actually a deleted scene of Belle Antilles. Maybe we'll talk about that later in a Lucas Facts. That'll be fun. I was always more novel, as I never read access, or I have never had real access to comics. There you go. Yeah. So when you are limited, I guess you could say, you're gonna pick up what you can and enjoy that. I read some of the novels, didn't get the chance to get my hands on mini comics, mostly because I'm not in the US. And that's what I hear. A lot of people who are not in the US had trouble, purchasing the novels and stuff, or not the novels, the comics. R2D2 name was taken from film canister label used in the movie labeled Reel 2 Dialogue 2. Correct. That was a fun one too. All right. R2D2's voice was made by feeding baby sounds through a synthesizer. All right, you guys. So let's get into this. Let me go ahead and put it back to the first page. All right. So, a lot of you guys know that I've been using the Book of Sith to go through these stories. And I think it's very effective, because I'd rather support the source material that I have on my bookshelves than turn to online platforms like Wikipedia for my knowledge, right? And to share with you guys here. As they alienated me, even though they say they support, women of color, of different ethnicities and stuff like that. And, of course, the LGBTQ, all of that, they alienated me because I had a differing opinion. So I don't support that. If you support me, like you say, because of my race and stuff, because I may have a different opinion than you on regards to something, isn't bad. And we've been seeing this, and this goes into the that so-called quote unquote manifesto that was, launched yesterday morning. It's all about not liking opposing criticisms. And then with that, labeling people according because you don't agree with them and using buzzwords, against them because you don't agree. So anyways, my little rant right there. So I'd rather use what I have. Hi, Batu. I'd rather use what I have as my source material on me to share with you. So we are now we talked about Sith alchemy, how they use it, how they manipulate creatures for their benefits, I guess you can say. Their weapons, holocrons, their code, how they got their code, all of that. Now we're going to get into some of the campaigns. Before we get into the Rule of Two era, where we start seeing them splintering or them, the evolution towards the Rule of Two, basically. And I thought this was interesting. I was going to consider on doing all 6 of the pages or 7 of the pages, but I decided to split it up because I'm like, if, we have a lot of fans in the Old Republic era here in the chat, or, basically like come here to CAF chat. And so we might have discussions. We might be sharing discussions within these events, right? And then, of course, the annotations here that are from Luke, Sidious, Vader. I think those are the 3 that are basically commenting on these campaigns. Oh, these campaigns are a little more than what I thought they were. So I should have added a couple more pages. I might, even though you're not going to see them, or I might make it a 3-part. We'll see how the discussion goes. So bear with me. This is going to be fun. And another interesting George Lucas fact, and this goes into how George kind of contradicts himself all the time. So I was shared by someone that George said that Jedi and Sith never warred. But then when George was talking about Revenge of the Sith movie and why the Sith are getting revenge, it was due to fighting. Basically, fighting is a synopsis word for war. And so he basically was talking about the wars between the Sith and the Jedi and what happened there. So that's another interesting fact here that, and then when you get into the authors who work with George creating the Sith lore and the Old Republic and stuff like that, it goes into what he said about how there's conflict between them and the Jedi and why. And we get why the exiles and what happened with the Jedi in their split and all this other stuff. So there you go. So let's see here. I see you guys are chatting in here. Let me see. Where did I wanted to? All right, here. I am good with all media, but outside of the official movies, I preferred my own stories. And oh yeah. Let's see here. I thought there was another one I wanted to highlight. It's okay. I'll get back to these. Okay. All right. So let's get into, I'll be sipping on my coffee a lot. Again, like I said, it's probably because I'm hoping it's just because I have the cool air blowing mostly on me throughout the night to why my throat feels kind of itchy and stuff. So bear with me. I apologize. So here's these campaigns here. Yes, smash the like button. And Luke Skywalker says, and this is why I was saying earlier in the show that not all the conflicts and stuff are shared here because his book basically is incomplete. These pages by Malgus were apparently part of a longer journal. Unfortunately, this section is all that survived, and that's from Luke. So that's his annotation, his synopsis to what's going on here. And then so you could see at the top of the page here, I don't know if you can see my cursor. You have just the ending of what Malgus was saying. So he basically says, troops from Edimoyan, I will not allow the Jedi to eliminate us by assaulting a secure fortification in overwhelming numbers. The Sith will not repeat the mistakes of Botha-Wee. So there you go. All right. So Rim campaign day 133, Malgus. So 133, Malgus. Despite our setback, the will of my army remains strong. We have been deployed to Ord Radma. Our bivouac is secure, and I have a moment of quiet. We arrived here 4 days ago. The dropships touched down under heavy fire, and I led the disembarkation alongside Darth Veniamo. I probably said that wrong, and I probably know better, but hey, you know me in Star Wars words. The lightsabers provided a sufficient screen for the single file lines of infantry behind us. We charged the heavy guns embedded in the cliff face, and they roared like to life in response. And so here is Sidious's response to this. Soul Assassin says, Botha-Wee is an awesome battle. Republic and Jedi had held out till the last man. There you go. So Sidious says, and I always have a hard time writing his cursive writing, those who can touch the dark side have sight where others are blind. They must always lead those who lack the ability. So there you go. So he says, okay, so if you could touch the dark side, you could see a lot more than what's going on in front of you. But I think that's in general with the Force. Even with the light side, you do have some Force sensibility, right? When both transports exploded at our backs, I knew the Republic's gunner had chosen the wrong targets. We had several critical seconds before they could ready another shot. By that time, we had reached the cover of the rocks at the cliff's base. Had they fired at the two Sith Lords leading the way, our assault would have ended there. Not even I can deflect a cannon burst from a mirror sun bellower. I ordered the Lord Viniamol to leap into the shelf from which the cannon barrels protruded. Moments later, the machinery fell silent, and he signaled the all clear. The commandos fired their ascension hooks and joined him on top. So are you guys familiar with these campaigns? I know Soul Assassin is. Let me see here. Chocolates can travel across time and space to reach their target no matter where it's hidden. I love how you said chocolates. What would be really cool is if they release the book and others like it in Arabic and leave it to fans to decipher. Oh, that'd be fun. I am up to that type of challenge. Did they put Sidious 3 Dark compendiums in this? I believe so. I haven't gone that far to see. So stay tuned. If Star Wars Marvel Pierce is here, he probably could answer that. I think he went through more of this than I don't remember, but doesn't mean that they didn't. I love the battles of Botha-Wee too. Even Star Wars had a vision of thermal play and the Spartans. Yeah. Let's see here. Indiana Kenobi. It belongs in the Holocron archives, right? Yeah, I got what you said there. Leading the remaining troops up the mountain trail, a tremor in the force echoed through me. The defenders of the Ord Ramada had placed mines on the path. Enraged by such a cowardice, I hurled a boulder from the mountainside onto the path in front of us. I then slowly rolled it it 20 paces ahead of our progress. Using force mental energy channeled through the dark side, the stones detonated each of the mines and scattered a nest of ambushers. My fire troopers took care of them with the spray of their flamethrowers. So there you go. So that is really interesting. Like when you get into how the force can be used, no matter dark or light side, you know, when landmines are planted like that, yeah, brilliant, right? To take a large boulder and roll it through using the force, you know. So, and here is something in, that Justin Star Wars Marvel Pierce really liked is Vader's writings, his annotation in here. I can't read his handwriting a little bit. Okay, I now command my. I can't even read that. My son, my own personal legion. So I now command my own personal legion, the 501st. The Empire's newest stormtroopers have some of the same specialties. So there you go. So he mentions about his 501st and how they have some of the same specialties and stuff like that. So probably this is something that was picked up by him and Sidious by reading the Book of Sith and going through and learning from the OG Siths, right? The OG Sith. Hey, that's a name. OG Sith. There you go. Hey there, Maz. How are you doing? How are you doing, Masquerade? Excuse me. Thermopylae. I got you. Thank you so much. And then Silver says, I need that Tommy Lee Jones clip from The Fugitive. I don't care, just so I can respond to Ubisoft shills. Right? All right. And then let me see here. Let me change the page. So it has that bit of campaign, the campaign written, drawn out here where they were at. And so you have, they do have like the color coded in Aberish, but I did not translate it. So that's very interesting. So you have the campaigns here, which I should have like took a picture of it and enlarged it so that we can take a look at exactly like where the forces, the opposing forces were and what happened. So our ascent on Ord Ramada, Redma, yeah. Anyways, exploited the natural cover offered by the ridge. So they planned this out. They used the ridge to their advantage. And then Solo Assassin says, Palpatine wanted Vader to be inspired by Malgus and be a better Sith. But we know, and this is something I want to get into, and I was talking with Solo Assassin about this, and how Vader was obsessed with killing every single Jedi. So during the Purge times, if he heard there was a Jedi or Jedi anywhere that he's doing a campaign or a mission for Sidious, he automatically wanted his attention, just went straight to that, where he has been reprimanded by Sidious for doing that. So very interesting thing about Darth Vader. All right, so this is still continuing day 133. We rejoined Venimul's team at the mountain crest. His commandos had swept the Republic stronghold, leaving no survivors. I had to congratulate their thoroughness. Our communication officer signaled in the Lindworm, and the rest of our troops landed on the field we had just secured. From start to finish, we lost only 2 dropships and their crews. This evening, as my soldiers readied their gear, I summoned them to bolster their spirits. Standing atop a siege tank, my mighty call echoed for kilometers. You are servants of the Emperor and of the Empire. You are the engine of conflict. You are transforming the galaxy. And that's what he tells them. The soldiers raised their weapons and their voices in agreement. Our progress has been swift. We will soon take the capital city of Levain. Magnus. All right. And so on the side, Luke Skywalker annotates after reading this. According to history, Darth Malgus later participated in the sacking of Coruscant and nearly destroyed the Jedi Temple. That is one I can't wait to get into that. Because the Sith are never at peace, they always seek to harm others. Luke Skywalker. All right, let's see here. OG sent you some photos in the DM. All right, let me go over there real quick. Hold on. All right. Oh, thank you so much. Let me see here. I'm going to open this one first. All right, we're going to share some of these here. Like I said, I should have even looked up for better images for the campaign here on the ridge, but that's okay. Share screen. Okay, home X. And here you go. So like I said, it's an I wish I would have translated that, but that's okay. So here you have the arrows pointing to their campaign and how they led up the ridge. You have points of, where, some of the opposing forces were hidden, I guess you can say. That's what I'm guessing. Very interesting here. Let me see if I can share the next page. Nope, it's not going to let me. Let's see here. I hate to share like the conversation. Oh, here we go. And then here you have the images here. And it looks like someone's art. And like I said, look at that. It's on graph paper. I've done that. I've done some awesome pieces. I'm like, shit, why did I just get a regular art paper or whatever? I've done some awesome drawings that were online, our graph paper too. So very interesting here. Very interesting. All right. And then let's look at, let me see here. Close out. Ord Radma. So here we go. You know what? This is probably in the atlas too, but here is the information. So it is Ord Radma system, Estran sector, Radma void, outer rim territories. So this is like one of the lesser planets that people know about. They almost looks like Coruscant here on how they have it look here, with the cityscapes and stuff like that. So I don't know if they just used an example of Coruscant with that. I don't know. And then so it has 360 days per year and 25 hours per day. So almost like Earth, slightly off on the hours, but that really doesn't matter because every planet's unique. And it's an imperial, the government imperial governor. The population basically during the time this was reported is 1.5 billion, 62% human, 28% Dialect, and 10% other. So their language is basically basic are it's Devlik, not dialect. It just looked like a Y there. I don't know why. So terrain, urban, and wetlands. So you see the urban here, but you don't necessarily see the wetlands by the way this looks. Kind of reminds me of Coruscant. That's why I'm saying that maybe this image of Coruscant was shared to make it look like it's similar, but not. It's not a city planet. Major cities, Lyavine, Magnus, that's the capital, and New Radio, former capital. So here's like, this has basically the history here. This is Rendezvous or Radmada, onslaught at Arda 1. Yeah, so let's see here. So thank you, Soul Assassin, for sharing. Let me go ahead and close this out. The Hardwire Owner's Legacy. Yeah. There's so much source materials that you can use. It's amazing. It is amazing. Let's see here. All right. Let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Who has not plundered and destroyed the Jedi Temple on Coruscant at this point? And hello, how are you doing, Matt G? And let's see here. Basically basics. So they're bitches. Basically basic. I know, I was laughing at myself when I said that. I was like, that's kind of weird. Oh my God, that's hilarious. Holy crap. Let me go ahead and get out of this page here. Almost like Valley Girlish, huh? Basically basic. Oh my God, that's hilarious. I don't know. All right, let's see here. And then Sassy says, and I know Sassy was saying this on Twitter to me, that they'll listen in as much as they can. Howdy, y'all. We'll try to listen while work. Listen while we work. All right. I don't know why I had to do that, but I did. All right. Here we go. This is day 152 by Malgus Rim Campaign here. So this is all, we know that Korriban and all of that, a lot of the Sith stronghold is in the Outer Rim areas. So this is, only makes sense to, move from outwardly in. Eventually they're moving towards Coruscant, basically. So those who don't know, dun, 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 sorry, that's what's going on. All right. So here's another installment from Malgus. The capital city of Livan Magnus has fallen. I have brought glory to the Empire, but my satisfaction was cut short by the arrival of Lord Address. Lord Address arrived 2 days ago, sent the Dark Council to assist in our operations. His presence and the Council's decisions anger me. Our siege of Livan Magnus had only been in effect a week, hardly enough time to declare it a stalemate. The city would have fallen when its people starved. This is ruthless, right? Was that not the strategy behind the Mandalorian blockade, which the Dark Council orchestrated? The tactic choked traffic along the Hydian Way and made our current campaign possible, yet the Council dares to hint that I lack courage. So you see the infighting that's going on still? That's something that they have always been known for in history. It's like, I guess you could say everybody, like each Sith is taking their own account for what's going on and they have their own machinations. Yeah. All right. I kind of shows the importance of the Jedi to avoid centralizing their entire leadership in one place. The good thing, a lot weren't on Coruscant during the sack. Let me see here. I like Valley Girls too. Serenity Valley Girls. Sorry, different sci-fi fandom. That's okay. I'm just saying Valley Girl in general. Even in Star Wars, politics can be pain in the ass. Correct. Pain in the ass. So Darth Vader's, we're going to get into another annotation of Darth Vader, but let's read this next paragraph, share this next paragraph here. Hopefully this does get you like, oh, I'm going to go play the game, or I'm going to go back and revisit the lore in some way, shape, or form. That's what this is all about, and creating conversation. So if there's anything you want to share that you know about these campaigns and what happened, share it. Let's expand on the talk here. Worse still is address smirking confidence during our strategy sessions. How I hate that weakling who seeks his own advancement over the goals of the Sith Empire. Address brought 10 platoons of war droids, roughly half of them Mark 1 models and the other half Mark 2s. Address is confident these droids can blast through the city's perimeter defenses and clear a path to the shield's generator that is covering the city in a protective energy canopy. I do not disabuse him of this notion. Excuse me. Damn. I wish I didn't have this like drainage or whatever's going on with my throat. Holy heck. But I'm here. I didn't want to cancel. We have 20 beautiful souls in the chat are watching. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I know Mark 1 war droids are well armed with rapid fire twin blasters attached to each arm. Mark 2 droids have similar weaponry and better armor, but neither model is nimble. So you see in this bottom corner, those droids. The colicoid insect that built them installed a pointy-legged shuffling locomotion system and leaves them vulnerable to flanking maneuvers. Venimal and I have both witnessed the weakness. So let's get into what Darth Vader says in the annotations here. I do not care for war droids. I find them useful only as lightsaber training opponents. Oh, goodness. And then Sidious says at the bottom here, there is some truth to this. Droids are throwaway soldiers, easy to build and effective only when unleashed in overwhelming numbers. So, you know, Vader, they both have experience with droids as well. Let's see here. What did I share? So that's the 3 here, but there's a little bit more that I didn't read here. I didn't realize that there's a little bit more to this. And so I'm going to read that. And then we're going to get into Book of the Week and then segue into our cringe factor. Man. All right. So what I don't have on screen here, I'm going to finish this section of campaign 152. All right. Our day 152 of this Outer Rim Siege campaign kind of deal. Siege. Outer Rim Siege is, you know, like I'm going into the PT era, but you know what I meant. So with a small nod towards Lord Venimal, we agreed with Lord Address as he announced his intention to stage an assault on the southern gate. We watched as the war droids were sent into battle and were chewed to shrapnel in the crossfire of the Republic's entrenched infantry. But the failure did provide a distraction. With the enemy's attention focused elsewhere, Lord Venimal led his commandos over the western wall and blasted a hole from the inside out, enabling the rest of our troops to pour into the city. We shut down the shield's generator in less than an hour, and I then called in air support to shatter all remaining pockets of resistance. Should it surprise me that Lord Address claimed credit for the victory when he reported the news to Darth Angral? No, I am not surprised. I'm disgusted. So again, you have these this infighting with the Sith, which is common for them, and so this is what's going on here. All right. Yeah, it's more primitive take on the droidekas, correct. The droidekas are, you know, basically the Jedi killers, I guess you can say. I loved Mara Jade's and Luke Skywalker's fight against one in, what is it called, Survivor's Quest. That was a very fun one to read. That interaction with a droideka, something that they knew that like his father and the Jedi of the PT era, you know, basically, you know, fought against and stuff like that, and how they are detrimental to the Jedi. Zerkalda says, yeah, it's more primitive to take on the droidekas. Let me see here. I'm building my own 3.75 scale Jedi temple on Coruscant diorama. Well, that's pretty cool, Gordon. And it's pretty big already. Awesome. Man, that's a lot of research, right? That's a lot of research on like the perimeters and everything that goes into that type of structure. That's pretty cool. And Gelderon, hello. Craft war droids are cooler than separatist battle droids. And that's a thing. So over time, and I don't think anybody has ever done this and I might be wrong, but I've never looked into it. So this is probably why I'm coming to this conclusion. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any Star Wars channels has compared the use of droids, war droids, basically, throughout the Star Wars history or the timeline. So that'll be interesting to compare them to, seeing if there's any type of evolution or not, because I think each period who use like time frame or era that use droids, they're different, but you might see some that are like basically early models to others. So that's very interesting. Thank you, Sassy. Thank you so much. Yes, smash the like button. First ever mod recommendations. Read the Malgus book Deceived. Yes, and I think I did. Did I recommend Deceived a while back? I'm not sure. If you want to see the climax of Malgus and Address's rivalry, correct. Correct. So right here, no, Deceived. I'm not having it as a recommendation this week. I think I might have recommended already. I have to go back and take a look. If not, then it'll show up here soon. But yes, Deceived. That's another one if you're interested in that conflict between the two and what's going on during that time frame. We need a replica of the Krath war droids. Enjoying my community. The chat is hopping. I've got the new Essentials Guide to Droids. Very cool. Some of them are similar to their predecessors. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like getting into that. Like, which ones are have predecessors type models? Excuse me. Wow. And some of them were one-time only kind of development. Let's see here. You could kind of see the evolution of some, where some were discontinued, all of that. Yes, you did. Let me see. Speaking of Krath war droids, isn't Grievous's cyborg body based on one of those? He's got a lot. Yeah, he's got a lot that he's based upon. It's like so interesting to go into the model of Grievous and why he was made and what he represents in general. Let's see here. All right, so we will continue the campaigns. So if you know of the campaigns told by Malgus and that bit of history and stuff, be prepared to talk more about it next Thursday. Bring in your questions or anything you want to share. Lucas Facts, that is now a part of CAF Chat. I will begin with greeting you guys. We'll go into Lucas Facts, have that conversation. It's just going to be something that's short and sweet and simple. And then we'll get into the lore. Then we'll get into any Star Wars, quote unquote, modern Star Wars news. And then we'll get into Cringe Factor. Oh, and I forgot. Book of the week. Book of the week. Okay. Let's see. Grievous' mask was carved by the from a Moo skull. Moo skull. That sounded funny. Moo. I know she meant Mama Moo. Vader does an Indiana Jones quote in the next journal. Yeah. Let's see here. Shit. We're up in Malgus's war journal. Sorry, I am late. Yes, we are. And I was like waiting for you to come on here. We just finished it. I did the first two campaigns, or the first two. I did day 133 and day 152. So we discussed that, but we are going to continue it next week. So be prepared for that. Sorry I'm late. Bad night last night. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm glad that maybe today might be a little bit more softer and kinder to you. Our cat died right before the 13th. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. When you lose a quote unquote fur baby or whatever they are to you, your little family member, I guess you can say, your four-legged family member, I guess you can say. It's always hard to, and 13. Yeah, the elder age almost. I had one of my cats. Her name was Igmu, which is Lakota for cat. She lived to be 21 or 24, something like that. I think it was 24. So she lived a very long, long life, very well cared for. But like 13 or 15 is also considered like elder age for cats, I believe. So I am so sorry for your loss. I understand how that could be and family can feel, especially when your children are young. Let's see. Ma says, sorry to hear that. Yes. Why did Lucasfilm destroy the Old Republic era for High Republic? They didn't destroy it. They just discontinued it. They tossed it aside. I'll definitely catch the replay. Yes, definitely. And leave your comments below. I know that you have been going through this book as well. And so if there's anything that you want to share in the comments, please do so. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. When the Sith raid the temple, we're reclaiming what's rightfully we're reclaiming rightfully theirs. Or you mean they're reclaiming what's rightfully theirs? Is that what you mean? Because they're jealous of the Old Republic. Yeah, the Old Republic. Like if you want to go back, every part of Star Wars timeline, every era within its historical timeline has its strengths, has its weaknesses, or what have you. But I think when you look at a story that is so further away from the main foundational story of the movies, and it holds firmly within the Star Wars lore, that meaning it's very strong, and fans love it for that. That's good writing. That's good. It still keeps continuity from what came before. However, what came before, is something that happens long after, I guess you could say, if that makes sense. So having such a, what am I trying to say? Having such a strong bit of lore that came before that sets up the galaxy to what we see in all the other medias, like the movies and stuff. It's amazing to do that, especially when, like what George did. He wrote the OT first, then went back to the PT. So he started kind of backwards, and that's what you see, that everything is being backwards. But then when you get into it, it all mirrors each other in a sense on, like reflecting back, like, we can look at this in life. You can remember, oh, I remember this and I respond to this. And then when you talk to your grandparent, they're like, oh yeah, I had a similar experience and I responded similar to that. So kind of like when you see like Luke Skywalker doing his salute in Return of the Jedi, and then you see something like that of like Anakin doing the same thing in another situation, that kind of is a callback to their father-son type of genealogical relationship and stuff like that. Very interesting at that. Very interesting. Because they jealous of the Old Republic. I already read that. Yeah. And of course, yes. Did they decanonize the expanded universe to screw those authors out of money somehow? Well, they can't decanonize something that's always and will always be canon. They just discontinued it. So no longer producing it under their brand. There was some legal rights going on with some of the authors that I have talked about on this channel before. And they weren't honoring the contracts that came with the purchase of Lucasfilm. So I think from what I read this last week, a lot of that has been honored now. So they did win their, I wouldn't say they were suing them, but they did receive what was owed to them. Can't make their crap scores the high scores without resetting the machine and cheating after that. Plus they're degenerates. Yeah, OG. Great stuff in all the non-1000 pages. Correct. I was trying to avoid that. And you come on here and you're like, let me trigger OG Star Wars with Talzin again. Oh my God. I was avoiding all of that. And yes, we are going to skip over those. Gotcha. Let's see here. Oh, here. I meant to click on this one and then I'll go to the bottom one. Through the EU, although the EU still can, okay. Although the EU still continues, it's a small proprietor in Kennedy film. it's not, the Kennedy is not, or sorry, EU is not being continued unless you're talking about their EU. Their EU is not the original canon EU of George Lucas era. There are a lot of flaws with SATOR in spite of my enjoyment of it. Stuff like the Galactic Republic and Jedi Order being exactly like they did in the prequel era. Are you talking about the game? The game, basically, yeah. The game's like, you could say, is like that quasi-S canon where the canon story is canon, but how you play and stuff that you experience in there probably is not or may not be. Gordon says the new Outlaws video game is replacing Shadows of the Empire. Well, you know what? That game is shit. So this will make appreciation towards Shadow of the Empire even more. So if you guys are on Twitter, start sharing Shadows of the Empire and get that out there. So it's about the same timeline, I guess you could say, as Shadow of the Empire, I believe. Yeah, but they wanted to replace it, but it's not. That game and that storyline, I'm hearing, sucks. Let me see here. I'm going to answer the question my son texted me. I think we're going to have lunch together. Okay. We're going to have some ramen noodles together. We're going to have a lunch date. All right. Good. We're going to get into Talzin. Talzin, for me, seems like it came out of nowhere. Universe Hollow Stories. Yeah. But she's not this. They're not Sith. So this is a book about the Sith. So this was just a shoehorned, bullshitted storyline that they put in of her in there. Do I dare risk being temporarily blocked by sending OG Talzin vids? I would not recommend that. I would give you a lot of middle fingers, that's for sure. There is that one Star Wars comic that continues from the old, but still canon is from Lucas Books. I know it exists. I don't know what you're talking about. I broke in $130. I broke in $130 in dollars, basically, game, waiting for the outrage when it discontinued. Ramen noodle, chicken, beef, or shrimp. This is from a Japanese ramen noodle restaurant. So my favorite is one that is a spicy one. So it's going to have not tri-tip, brisk, and the noodles, cabbage, of course, and stuff like that. A spicy bone broth, and a boiled egg. So hopefully you guys are hungry now. I'll tell you about it later, OG. Okay. All right. All righty then. So with that being said, let me go ahead and get us ready for the next segment. But first of all, if you guys need to refresh your drinks, grab something, feel free to. Let's play a clip. I still have not got that commercial one that you sent me, Soul Assassin, up on here yet. But because we were talking about this, check this out.
Prepare yourself for Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire. The evil Empire has struck back with a vengeance, and a new villain, the crime lord Shizor, schemes to replace Darth Vader as the Emperor's second-in-command. With Han Solo held frozen in carbonite by bounty hunter Boba Fett, it's the rebellion's darkest hour. Now, join Jedi warrior Luke Skywalker, hard-charging Chewbacca, and go undercover with heroic pilot Dash Rendar and his booming Outrider. But can Han Solo be freed and Shizor be stopped? Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire. Look for the authentic figures and vehicles from Kenner.
I hate to say it, but it looks like the item you're searching for doesn't exist.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
If an item does not appear in our records, it does not exist.
All right. So do you guys know what that means? It is book of the week. And let me go ahead. I want to bring an image up. I don't want to put myself on camera today because I am like, my hair is up in a bun. I'm still in my pajamas because that's just how my morning went. And so I'm not very sightly. I'm not very sightly, and hair is still messy, all of that. So here it is. I should have had the screen pulled up, but I was trying to scroll into the image, enlarge the image. So did I put the right one in there? No, I did not. Not that one. Son of a biche. There we go. Let me go ahead, and I clicked on the wrong one, the wrong link to share. All right. All right. So because this has been in conversation within this week, I decided, okay, instead of a novel, we're going to use a source book. And the source book is Star Wars, the Annotated Screenplays. I highly recommend for you to get this in your shelves, especially when you come across anti-George Lucas rhetoric about him not like being involved with the Empire Strikes Back development, and that he didn't write anything in the Empire Strikes Back for the movie. And what I shared for Lucas Facts, he never really had any plan for Star Wars. He made it up as he went along. All of this, and it even goes into why George decided to make Obi-Wan a Force ghost. There's a lot of gold, like gems in here, and even talk about previous dialogues and stuff and why things were changed here. And it covers, of course, only the OT, which is fine. And it talks about, the decisions on, not having Padme in the story as it was intended and stuff like that. So a lot of good information here. I highly recommend. Get it on your bookshelf. Let me see what you guys have to say. The PT2 has elements of Sator. Yeah, it does. So does the OT. Let's see here. Another fact about Luke is that a lot of things added in the special editions of the OT are referenced Shadows of the Empire, correct. And you can get another book, source book that you can get is The Secrets of the Shadow of the Empire. And that goes into, what he used from that cross, I guess so you could say, pollination of lore between the OT special editions and the Shadows of the Empire. Let's see here. Hear that all pajama party. And what's so funny was last night I reminded the Dark Council how I convinced them to all come on screen. Me and I think it was Lorena and a few of us convinced them to all wear onesies one time. That was funny. And they were so good humored about it. They did it. I applaud them for that, and stuff like that. So that was funny. So a bit of Dark Council history, there. Star Wars Marvel purist. Let's see here. 25 plus years of years old soul. I know I was in my teens when it dropped. And that is the Shadows. That is about Shadows of the Empire. That was amazing when that came out. I do have the vinyl. It's soundtrack vinyl. I do have that. It's pretty amazing. Let me see here. They replaced handsome Dash Rendar with ugly girl boss. I remember that onesie stream. That was fun. That was so fun. And then was it Abu Nas almost fell over his chair? And he said he's not going to be able to listen in, because he has work to do and the work is not permitting him to, listen in like sometimes he does. And he catches the replay. So hello, Abu Nas. We're just remembering, recounting the onesie stream and you almost falling over your chair. Good humor, good times. You guys were amazing. And you still are. Galderon says, don't his earliest drafts date back to 71. I used to have one of those Starkiller versions. Yeah. So it goes all the way back. And I think that when I read it earlier, and I think you missed it, it does have dated back to 1971. Yeah. And that's the Journal of the Wills and stuff like that. Let's see here. Yeah, imagine you're about a decade younger than me. I know you talk about growing up in the 90s, so you can't be that young either. Laugh out loud. Now, I'm taking that is for Soul Assassin. I am the same age as Shadows of the Empire. I am the same age as Star Wars. Star Wars is just slightly older than me by a couple months. I was conceived in 1996. Everybody's telling their stories, their birth stories now. The good times their parents had when they conceived. I'm sorry I had to go there. Oh my God. But that's how we all came into life, right? My friend, her name is Deborah Sivelman. She goes, we all came into this life through an orgasm. Yep. We all came into this world through an orgasm, by an orgasm. All right. Dystopian says, are you ever going to play any of the Star Wars games? I plan to. It's just my time is dedicated more to my art show and stuff. I am as old as The Empire Strikes Back. Nice. Gross, OG, but I'm not surprised. Hey, is there a stream that I have not went to the R-rated side at one point or another? You guys should know me by now. I'd be shocked if we ever done a stream without OG saying something crazy. I always say something crazy, but it's fucking true. And not no pun intended, or whatever with the word fucking. I trust you can put it on the Star Wars timeline end of May 72. Let's see here. I premiered 3 months after Star Wars. There we go. You premiered. I love that. I premiered. Dun, dun, dun. I premiered. Let's see here. Were you born from lesbian witch chats? I don't think that ever existed back then. The puns are there. Laugh out loud, Sassy. I love that. I know, me too. The Jedi Power battles on PS1 is awesome. If you need recommendations, thank you so much. I will definitely reach out. Crazy OG is the fun OG, no lie. You know me. I like Soul Assassin and I said almost at the same time. Is there ever a chat time where I have not gone to the R-rated side? I am not afraid to talk that way. If it makes you guys laugh, giggle, smile, blush, or whatever, life is not like, you can't be so serious. If you're too serious in life, I feel so sorry for you. If you can't take a joke, even a joke about joking about racism and stuff like that, and stuff, I feel sorry for you. I really, really do. I mean, you don't be taking life too seriously. Let me reply back to my son. Okay. All right. Witch chant. We keep it rated G on my channel. Dead. Oh my God. I have cussed a little on your channel though, remember? Dead. Okay. What is life without humor and fun, right? If you can't, what are you doing here? If you can't laugh, if you can't, take something serious and make light about it so you can overcome something, what are you here for? What are you here for? With that being said, we are going to go with Cringe Factor now. Dun, dun, dun. So Cringe Factor, and it's about George Lucas. It looks like Lucas is the topic of the day. And so with that being said, let's go ahead. Another chance to use the restroom, do what you need to do, or just be prepared for what's coming when it regards to Lucas and lore.
I had fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure at this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
That was so weird. Everything froze up. I don't know if it froze up on your end, but it froze up on my end. So I was like, why did everything pause and stop and I can't get out of the, the blackout for the segue here? That was weird. That was weird. All right, you guys. So here we go. Let me go ahead and click out of some of these ads here. So we all know that Star Wars is big about its continuity, its lore, and even how George maintained it somehow, some way. What do you think about that? So this article is by Thomas Bacon. It was published about 8 hours ago. So this is where I seen it last night before bed. I did share it with Soul Assassin. I'm like, be prepared. He's my mod. Be prepared for this cringe factor bullshit, right? So it says George Lucas couldn't care less about lore. So why are Star Wars fans obsessed with it? What do you guys think about that? We just shared the screenplays and the development of the lore. And within the screenplays, you can get information about the decisions on the direction they decided to go. Oh, Abu Nas. And some of the changes of our surprising changes that happened. I'm going to get this super chat. $10 super chat. Thank you so much, dear, for supporting the channel in this way. I appreciate it so much. I could take a joke to a certain point, but hey, I'm here to celebrate Lucas canon. And yes, even though I am Rogue One and Andor whore, they're very much so, and sometimes whores don't have good judgment. Just saying. If you could take a joke, you're laughing at this, right? I ride with my awesome OG to celebrate real Star Wars, right? Thank you so much for the $10 super chat for listening in. You're going to laugh and have a good time about what I had said about you earlier. Not bad at all, but it's joking. Abu. Yes, Abu. Abu Nas is in the house. Okay. And now my cat wants to lay under my arms as I'm trying to scroll and stuff. An unrelated note, the orcs want a normal life. Yeah, and I did discuss it last week, I think, in a sense. I believe on CAF Chat, I want to do a segment or lore here on CAF Chat just to compare and contrast between what's going on with Star Wars and that franchise as well. The same guy who edited novels, games, and other EU material didn't care about lore. Sure, right? Let's see here. Sounds like clickbait title. Yeah, that's all it is. But that's why it makes. And you guys are gonna get pissed. You guys are gonna get stirred up with what Thomas Bacon says in here. Bacon. I'm hungry. I didn't have my breakfast yet. I'm hungry. Let's see here. Everything, including my work computer, has been frozen solid all day. Damn, that's fucking sucks, especially when you're at work and you're supposed to be working on it. It's equivalent to Rings of Power humanizing the orcs. Yeah, it's the same Tusken Raider bullshit all over again. Let's see here. Haha, no worries. Let me see here. Smash that like button. Yes. All right. Here we go. Let's get into this. Let me go ahead and Abu off the screen. Oh my God, there you go. I swear to God, like ever since we just started getting into this article, my everything's been slowing down. So cringe factor, you guys, about George Lucas not really caring about lore, and so why should fans care about it? Because first of all, that is the focus. Care. Why would he allow his company to keep continuity and create a historical timeline? And this goes back into his anthropology studies. He knows the value of history. You're telling history. You're telling historical events. Right? So, of course, you know the value of lore. So let's go on. George Lucas never cared at all about lore. So this is Mr. Thomas Bacon here, which makes Star Wars fandoms obsessed with it all more ironic. How is this ironic? Now, this is like, it seems like this feels like, and I read most of the articles, so you're going to see responses to pieces I just skimmed over. And you're going to see, and those will be probably the most honest ones. You could about pieces of this article where I researched a little bit further into stuff. And with that being said, when we just got done talking about Star Wars, the OT special edition, and how he connected Shadows of the Empire to it. Now that tells me he cares about the lore. He cares about the historical events that are happening within the timeline, within the story, within this universe, this galaxy that he's created. Lucasfilm latest release, The Acolyte, was controversial before it even came out, but matters. Oh, so you're going to go down that route that everybody is, that are pissed off about Acolyte not being greenlit for a season 2. But matters only worsened as each episode dropped, with frequent claims it had somehow broken canon or lore. Some argued that OSHA. So this is an argument for The Acolyte. Forgot to mention that. This is an argument for the shit show Acolyte. Some argue that OSHA may lessen the significance of the chosen one prophecy. They didn't argue that basically is a fact, while others debate such esoteric points as the age of Jedi Master Kai-Adi-Mundi. Again, lore. This is just because his age wasn't mentioned in the movies, it was mentioned in the source material for the movie, which means it's canon, which is canon. But people will argue, oh, the EU wasn't canon, and that's EU material, so that's not canon. No, that's movie material. When you have movie material, the foundation, the thing that sets the stage for the universe to expand from, it's like the sun here in our galaxy. The sun is the stage for our galaxy, right? That's where the movies are. The movies is this, right? And everything gravitates around it. Its history revolves around it. Its history is made through the sun. And each one of these little planets, like Earth here, for example, is just one little note of historical event within the larger galaxy, right? So there's my analogy on that. But you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. I'm going to see what you guys are saying already, because we're barely into this article here. Let's see here. Soul Assassin says, damn it, I'm going to have to not click. They really want to rewrite the Chosen One prophecy, don't they? Correct. I'm just going to read off the side and not highlight, because it's like freezing me up here for whatever reason. So I don't know when Soul Assassin's thing's going to come off. There we go. G tier canon, correct. Let's see here. Masquerade says, I wonder what is the thought process of making a show that was supposed to be brought in big screen for a movie for more Clone Wars. I don't know. They can't justify their own crap with lying about Lucas and insult his legacy. That's correct. You are correct. Star system, not galaxy. Well, you know what I meant. the star system is within, like, we are in our own galaxy. There's so many galaxies throughout the universe, so let's see here. Why bother bringing him at all just for key dangling cameos? They could have brought in his dad and it would have still been the same effect of the story, or it could have been someone completely different and could have been something suspenseful, like, or a true subvert of expectation. You think it's Coyote Mundi, and then maybe the next episode it reveals it's not. They could say, oh, Master Mundi or Jedi Knight Mundi, but it could have been, like you said, his relative or something like that. So people are like, oh my God, I can't believe that Mundi knew, and then he didn't know. Could have been that way. And that's a one way they could have resolved that to not hurt the PT, right? Soul Assassin says, do y'all remember the third Pirates of the Caribbean film when Jack's dad shot the pirate for saying F the pirate code? That's how I feel when they say that to the EU. I agree with that. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on this adventure with Mr. Bacon's article. Leaving aside the question of motives, it's fascinating to note. So motives make up, motives are one of the little things that makes up lore. It moves the lore. It pushes things along. So leaving aside questions of motives. So basically, it's fascinating to note the angle of popular YouTubers took to attack the latest Star Wars. Okay. Again, this is about the attack of the Acolyte. Oh my God, their criticism is a fucking attack. Woe is me. I can't believe that they don't like it and they have this vitriol of criticism. And vitriol, or whatever it is criticism. It's just a harsh criticism. That's all. That's all it is. So when you hear Amandla and others now, because a lot of people are repeating what she said there, she's crying around about harsh criticism, basically. Which I kind of find funny. Because it's criticism still. How can someone not grow if they don't have any form of criticism? Constructive criticism is another thing. Vitriol is another thing. It's a form of criticism. It's harsh, yes, but it's there to make you grow as an artist. Whether you're artist that's putting your art on paper, canvas, or you're acting out or dancing out your art through expression, through portraying characters or what have you. How can you grow if you don't accept any type of criticism? You don't. And with this chick, and I'm not judging an actor or a person of an artist, basically, it's just their performance, what they did, what they put on paper or on canvas, or how they acted out. I'm judging that, their ability, not the color of the skin. I think people cannot discern that. They think, oh, once I discuss Amandala's, and because she's the topic, because Acolyte's a topic, right? So once I discuss Amandala's acting, I must be racist because she's Black. No, I can care less about her skin color. What did you deliver? Skin color has nothing to do with your skills whatsoever. Nothing whatsoever. So I think people need to realize that before they start screaming out these buzzwords as of lately because of criticism. All right, so let's move on. While some discuss Acolyte on its own merit, and that's basically a lot, everybody is discussing it on its own merit. Debating the writing, narrative, momentum, and performances, the main focus was always on the lore. Yeah, because when Star Wars is known for being one continuity in canon. Continuity means that the lore all connected up in a historical way. That's all. So when you have the setup for how many years? 30 plus years. And even the company and George himself has mirrored that. There is high expectations. And the company, like has talked about this countless times in their insiders magazines and other company magazines about how they recognize the value of a consistent continuity or a cohesive one that's historical, that ties in from one to another. And I think this person, Mr. Bacon, is missing that. This paid off. Many videos netted YouTubers a tidy profit with millions of views. But why is Star Wars fandom so obsessed with lore? I have never got a million of views, so I think that you're being hyperbolic with that. Lightsabers are such an iconic part of Star Wars lore. Well, yeah, that's basically what sets it apart from other type of fiction, right? But you may be surprised to hear that original drafts called them laser swords. That has nothing to do with that. Okay, so let me get this straight. So if people don't understand, I'm pretty sure you in the chat understands. If you're listening but you don't understand, I'm going to simplify this for you. Original or early drafts are just ideas that evolve. It doesn't mean it's canon. They decided, just like Luke Starkiller turned into Luke Skywalker. That is not a example of not keeping consistent lore, because the early drafts are not a part of the lore. What is a part of the lore? What makes the lore is the final drafts that are used in the movies. Lucas did not like the name, though, because he felt a reference to lasers would lead to some viewers debating the scientific accuracy of it all. No, people have debated lightsabers because they are basically a type of laser that's confined in a blade, right? So I've seen, and I've been in many conversations about that. How does it work? Does it make sense? Can we do this in modern times? He wanted to tell a science fantasy story, not a science fiction one. Actually, it's more science fiction than fantasy. Fantasy only because of the type of themes he used, but relatively a science fiction one, meaning he wanted the rules to be more flexible. Fantasy does not equate flexible lore. Because even when someone's making a science fiction, they will fit their science fiction things like lightsabers. Lightsabers is a science fiction type sword, right? They will make up their rules for that lightsaber. It's still science fiction. It's still science fiction. It's still a science fictional sword that has its rules, its lore, and how it's made, and all this other stuff. And what gets me is people think that fantasy means that like rules are sloppy, basically, that the rules could be willy-nilly, anything can happen. No, there's rules in any type of story development, whether it's fantasy, whether it's science fiction, whether it's a combination of both, or any type of fictional story has rules for the world. That's world building. World building sets the rules for the lore. That's how little he cared about consistency. That this is not evidence whatsoever that he didn't care about consistency. In fact, he actually did, and through his evolution of his own drafts, his scripts, his drafts of the story, he was creating a consistent story. He was just changing names. That's it. Changing names is not evidence that he did not care about consistency. So George Lucas didn't actually come up with the name lightsaber. That was a contribution from science fiction and fantasy author Alan Dean Foster. And that's all I got to say. And, this is what creatives bouncing off each other. Fast forward to production of The Empire Strikes Back. And it's notable how willing Lucas was to retcon everything that he'd done before. How in the hell does Empire Strikes Back retcon Star Wars, aka A New Hope? How does it retcon that? So let's go on. Because that's what the iconic "I'm your father" moment really is, a retcon, revealing that everything Obi-Wan told Luke about his father was a lie. No, that's expanding on the story. I don't think this person knows the difference between expansion, because in Star Wars, aka New Hope, it never said that Vader wasn't his father, right? It never said, oh, Vader is a totally different entity, or not his father, in a sense. Let me see what you guys are saying. All right. You guys are on fire here. What I said was true from a certain point of view, Obi-Wan. Lord, they are starting to burn my biscuits. And Abu says, wow, I didn't even know that George didn't invent the word lightsaber. It was Ellen Dean Foster. I will go more into that later. I think I'll do a quick maybe short on that. And create the name Mind Blowing. Yeah, so Ellen Dean basically worked with George before the movie and came out, because the novel came out before the movie. So there we go. And let's see here. If his rules are so flexible, how come in every time he speaks about Star Wars, most of the time he's specific on things, even how much does a lightsaber hilt weighs? Again, that's the thing. This idiot must have watched Vice's Marsha. Yeah, that I can't. He probably did. He's probably is getting some of his information from there. That right there. Oh my God. I'm glad that we went over it on the spacing, but man, that bitch is a fucking liar. I cannot stand her. All right. The author's just mad because his last name is Bacon. Oh my God. Bacon. All right. Let's get back. Okay. So where did I leave off at here? Yeah. So there's no indication that Vader could or could not have been his father. Now, if it specifically said that he wasn't or whatever, then you could say it's a retcon or whatever. But this is more of an expansion to the lore. Because this is just the first. Star Wars was just the first installment of the movies. So the sequel to it, or the middle movie, is which this one is, because it's a trilogy, is expanding on what came before. You would kind of say that's a plot twist. Really, right? It's not a retcon. The idea that Leia's Luke's sister in Return of the Jedi, this is a question. The idea that Leia is Luke's sister in Return of the Jedi, that's a retcon too. And it even necessitated changing Leia's age to make her Luke's twin. Luke didn't even care, or Lucas. All right, so going back to this. Nowhere, again, did it even hint that she could or could not be his sister. And it goes back into the screenplays that I shared. And that's the reason why I decided to make this book of the week, because it gets into that. The only reason why, and you can't really say decisions behind the scenes is a retcon, because like I said, what happens behind the scenes in decisions is not canon or lore, I guess you could say. Yeah. Lucas again decided to do another plot twist. It doesn't hurt the lore, nor does it retcon it, because they didn't know they were relatives or brother and sister twins. It doesn't hurt it. And he needed to decide who she was going to land on, particularly with love interest, which shown in Empire Strikes Back, not Return of the Jedi. And it's shown it from the beginning. When you see Han and Leia argue in the facility at Hoth, their snow facility base at Hoth, he does tell her, you felt this way about me, when they argue about a time, and I forgot when that was. Forgive me, I don't remember where they were together, about their attraction and her confession to him. And that's in the lore too. So it already hints about that. And she only kisses Luke to make Han jealous. There's not really a developing romance relationship between the two. You can tell by how she's reacting to Han and her feelings and her fighting against her feelings, because she feels that she needs to focus more on the rebellion and all of that, and herself, her individual self. So she's fighting urges, right? She's fighting urges. She's fighting what could be a budding relationship or attraction. She's fighting all of that. And that's common. There's instances that men and women have that conflict, like, should I hook up with him or should I not? Kind of situation, But nowhere is this a retcon. Because a retcon is basically something that has been established before to confirm that it never was, then made so in another show. That's a retcon. There's nothing established in the lore that they weren't siblings or they were. It was nothing. There was nothing there. That's not a retcon. This is another expansion, another decision made. Yeah, it's no mistake Leia is going for Han. Yeah, exactly. And that's from the beginning. I'm sorry, but the changes that happened during the writing and editing processes are not valid points to Lucas didn't care about continuity argument. No, it's not. And that's my point here. It is not. If he didn't care about continuity, then you wouldn't see so many draft changes of the story for every movie. One of the most romantic movie kisses ever. Yeah, them on the Millennium Falcon. Let me see what you guys are saying. Again, I'm not highlighting because I don't want it to freeze and get stuck. So I'm just skimming through. Alrighty then. Let's see here. Let's continue on this bacon grease madness. Bacon grease madness. That's all this is. All right. I'll never forget the tale from Dave Filoni. Oh, fucking shit. Yeah, I skimmed through this because I seen Dave Filoni's name. And so I was like, fuck it. Dave Filoni does not count here. So they're only mentioning Dave Filoni because he's the protege of George Lucas. So his doesn't count. But we're going to read it anyway. So I'll never forget the tale from Dave Filoni, Lucas's protege, in which he discussed work with Lucas on Star Wars: The Clone Wars. At one point, Lucas didn't want or decided he wanted a small ship to essentially be stealth fighter, complete with cloaking fields. Filoni, well aware of the lore, objected that no ship this size should have a cloak due to power constraints. This one does, Lucas insists, and that was that. That has how little lore mattered to Lucas. No, he's just saying, okay, so these ships here have the capability. We're going to make them. And this reminds me of, the stealth X-Fighters. And X-Fighters having hyperspace capability. See where this is going? Mr. Bacon Grease thinks that this is another thing that, oh, well, George didn't care about lore, so this making willy-nilly. No, he's just saying there can be a possibility of a small ship with cloaking field or being stealthy. And this reminds me of like the X-Wing, the stealth X-Wings, right? That's all. This is not an example of, oh, George don't care about the lore. You know, nothing expands in a history if it's not tried. So this is what is called inventions, right? Or improving on something, the development and the evolution of something, right? So we cannot progress, and I'm not saying this in a SW liberal or whatever political way, but if we don't have progress in society, we basically are doomed. We are stagnant. We fell in the brilliance of like who humans are to, you know, here on earth, right? We wouldn't have computers. We wouldn't have the iPhone or similar phone devices if someone did not take a chance, right? And so this is all this is about. This is expanding on the lore even more, expanding on the development of ships, equipment, all of that. That's all this is. And I think this guy fails to realize this in this article. Maul ship was stealth fighter, so was Star Killers, correct? And let's see, Obi-Wan to Filoni, you were the chosen one. He's not the chosen one, but I get what you're saying. It was you who would destroy the Sith, not join them, bring balance to the Force, not leave them in darkness. Filoni, I hate you. And then Dave Filoni, breaker of canon, first of his name, bastardizer of the EU throughout thought bomb deployer. Correct. So this guy, Mr. Bacon Grease, basically is saying, oh, well, George didn't care about the lore because he said, oh, suggested that there possibly can be a cloaking field for stealth fighters or whatever, you know, stealth fighters, which he's right. There can be. Again, that's called evolution. You know, you can't make any progress as a society without having tried something, having an invention, or having something updated. Star Wars fans, of course, have always taken a very different view. I think there is a good reason for this. Their love for Star Wars means they want to immerse themselves in the worlds that Lucas created. The worlds, you mean world. There's only one world, unless you're saying different systems, basically. But world that Lucas created. And that much easier to do when you have a consistent set of, or consistent set of rules and a history that allows you to place things in it. It's worth remembering that fan fictions and RPGs have always been a massive part of the franchise, and these take advantage of that consistency. It's not like the whole franchise is basically taking consideration of being consistent with the lore, and that's through George Lucas as well. Making matters even more complicated, though, is the sense of entitlement that some parts of the fan base have been cultivated. Do you guys have a sense of entitlement towards the lore, like production of the lore? Or do you think this is now another way of gaslighting fans for expecting a consistent story? And I've been using this term gaslight a lot lately because that seems like what's going on, but it fits here. It's like this whole sentence is a sense of gaslighting because we have expectations that were set by Lucasfilm themselves, and including George. So why not expect it to continue on when they say they're going to honor George's work, right? And what came before? Oh, but no source materials. See where this is going? Again, I think there are reasons for this. It's hard for modern viewers to imagine, but there was a time when Star Wars seemed to be dead, when there were at most a few comics and certainly no upcoming Star Wars movies on the horizon. At that time, the franchise essentially did belong to the viewers, and they soon developed a sense of ownership. Now, what do you think about that? Did you feel that there was a time frame where Star Wars was dead? Or you think that Mr. Bacon Grease is saying this because there was no movies coming out yet, but there was a lot of games coming out. There was a lot of comics coming out. There was explorations of the Clone Wars. There was explorations of New Jedi Order material coming out. I hate when this happens. What happened here? Did you freeze up on me? Let's see here. And do you think because of this that he's saying that we have developed a sense of ownership? What do you guys think about that? You use the word gaslight because they keep engaging in gaslighting. That is how that works, correct? Shadowlands Saga could be another world. Evan Powell survived Order 66 and Tarkin doesn't work for appeal. And let's see. Yes, we are entitled. Without us spending our money, there would be no franchise. He's starting to sound like a bigot. Oh, Star Wars Marvel purist. Let's see. More of a caretaker than an EU than entitled. Correct. All right. Let's see here. And let's get back. Let's finish this up. I know we're past the 2 hours I like to run, but that's okay. It's been like that for the last few CAF chats. This, of course, is one major reason the fan base clashed massively with Lucas himself when he returned to make the prequels. What? Did you guys clash? Like those who were of age to watch the prequels come out. Did you guys massively clash with Lucas? So let's move on with this. Let's see what this Mr. Bacon Grease is talking about. I was part of the fandom back then. Oh, so one of those qualifiers. I was part of the fandom back then. So what I say is valid, but yours isn't, even though you were a part of it during that time. And I well remember how we discussed and debated the finer points of the latest movies to figure out how to make them work with the EU. They did work with the EU with minor discrepancies because George did tell even Timothy Zahn not to get into the areas of the PT time frame, but he still did mention some stuff. But that's Timothy's problem, not George's, because George cared about lore, right? If he didn't care about lore, then he wouldn't be telling the authors, the creators that he brought in, his company brings in, to not write in the PT time frame on what not to mention, right? If he didn't care about the lore, then he wouldn't ask them not to expand on Yoda's species, where he came from, his origins, right? If he didn't care about the lore, he wouldn't have worked with the authors to make sequels and prequels of the novels and have the movie characters discuss events that happen in the EU within the movies. Many seem to take this as an almost personal slight because they had forgotten one simple truth. George Lucas owned Star Wars. They did not. And he did not really care about the lore. I just proved that he did care about the lore. People who probably didn't agree with the direction George decided to do in some instances, that's just common. Every creator will get that from their fan base. Doesn't mean that we, as the consumers, have entitlement. It's just a disagreement of that. That's all. George Lucas wasn't really invested in the worlds he was creating, in the rules and histories that tie everything together. No, he's a storyteller first and foremost. Storytellers do, especially with this big of a scale George is telling his story, he did care about lore. If he didn't, everything would be willy-nilly within each movie. They wouldn't even connect if he didn't care about the lore. He didn't care if that meant contradicting something that had gone before, whether it was established in his own movies, a random CD-ROM, or RPG source book. For Lucas, oh no, he did care because he handed off Western games to the authors because he wanted consistency. He cared about the lore. If he didn't care about the lore, he wouldn't even be considering on having the authors use those resources or talk with the company about keeping consistency throughout the lore. For Lucas, the story is what mattered first and foremost. The story is the lore. Lore is the story. It's like they coincide together. This feels like a much healthier approach to storytelling. No, if you don't care about the lore, then your story is going to be willy-nilly what you create. Even if you're doing a show, your episodes are not going to coincide with each other. They're going to be all over the place. Too often, canon and continuity can feel like chains on a writer. No, canon is basically just everything that is official, right? Continuity within the canon will determine if the canon, everything is canon. So Star Trek, they have canon stories and non-canon stories. They're all over the place though, right? Because they don't care about connecting their continuity. That is what you call not caring about the lore and storytelling is that you're going to tell the stories, right? You're going to tell a story, but they're going to be false. That's how I see it. When you have an inconsistent story, that's almost like telling a rumor, right? It's almost telling like a rumor, a lie. That's how I see that. I don't know if you guys agree with me or not. That's how I see that. So a storytelling can be fake or a lie, something that didn't happen, wasn't true, which is not lore, which is not the historical events. Then you're going to have storytelling, telling of historical events, establishing a constant continuity or lore, a consistent one at that. So often canon and continuity can feel like a change to a writer, limit them rather than liberating them to tell exciting stories. No, exciting stories is when you have this historical event and you're reading or watching and you're like, oh shit, and you know the lore and you're like, oh shit, this event was, portrayed in this source here. Oh my God, it all ties together. It's exciting because you're given a historical event. And yet I can't help feel that there are limits to it. Retcons that aren't wise because they completely invalidate something that has gone before. I'm thinking of Star Wars, the Bad Batch premiere here, which directly contradicts from so he's going about, see, this is what you get. So he's contradicting himself with this. He is actually sharing that lore does matter because he's saying retcons aren't wise because of its contradictions. But then he goes into, it's contradicted the Kanan novels are the Tales of the Jedi, erasing LGBTQ characters. So it only matters if it contradicts the diversity that they're adding in here, like LGBTQ, the alphabet people, basically. See where he's getting at here? It only matters, lore only matters if it's consistent with this kind of thing. Let me see. Then let me highlight. It's not going to let me highlight, but this right here, their diversity. Notice what those two examples do, though. That is different to say. Lucas's cloak ship, in the case of the Bad Batch, it shrinks the galaxy because it just means everybody is connected somehow to everybody else. So you're arguing that lore is essential to the storytelling, right? That they coincide. In Tales of the Jedi, characters and ideas are actively erased, a narrative choice made even more frustrating because these characters give so much needed diversity to the galaxy, just what I was saying. On reflection, I think there are two approaches we can take to lore when it comes to retcons like this. If you'll forgive me borrowing some terms. Okay, so I'm not going to get into the rest of this. Let me see here. I'm going to scroll down because he gets into just semantics of what retcons are. There's still something very subjective to this, of course. To circle back to the Acolyte backlash, I personally didn't see anything about Osha and May that diminished the Chosen One in its slightest. There were were consciously created by Force sensitive using a Force power that inferred to Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, whereas Anakin was created by the will of the Force itself. It contradicts because of the fact that they used the Force to create something and they survived. So they were created by the Force, and the Force basically willed it to happen, agreed for it to happen, because when you read Darth Plagueis' novel, when Darth Plagueis tries to manipulate the Force to create life, it back. So this is how it contradicts it. And so we'll go on. In general, I think best approach is one that gives the benefit of doubt, actually looking to see what is added rather than removed. Oh, so benefit of the doubt. It's all clear, you guys. We just got to give it the benefit of the doubt, and then the lore is okay. Nothing was contradicted or broken. One thing for sure, George Lucas himself wouldn't even care about this level of thought. He'd simply want to tell whatever story he'd come up with at a given moment. Well, I think this guy didn't know about the Cannes interview where he was saying if he didn't care about lore, why would he care about how Disney, Lucas, and Star Wars in general? He clearly stated his distaste, his dissatisfaction about how the lore is being handled by Disney Lucasfilm when he talked at Cannes or whatever it's called. So there we go. So ending with that, George Lucas's interview at Cannes shares he cares about the lore. Oh, my chat disappeared. I can't see you guys. There you go. It was like clear. There was nothing there, just clear white. There was nothing there. Oh my God. So Zagharat, hello. Good afternoon to you. You're joining now at the end of the show. So please catch the replay. So what do you guys think about this? This guy is just giving all kinds of excuses. Mr. Thomas is giving his greasy opinion about George Lucas not caring about the lore to validate what the Acolyte did and is, and its failure. So to think that George doesn't care about lore, this solidifies Acolyte as a good show. Really? Is this what he's coming to? But then again, I have many instances that George cared about the lore. And in fact, if he didn't care about the lore, why would he call Disney white slavers? Why would he tell Kennedy that there's a treasure trove of books, novels, and movies and stuff for them to use to continue on the lore? Why would he, criticize Disney Lucasfilm when he was at the Harlem, when he was doing the interview with the Harlem school during the lockdowns? If he didn't care about the lore, then why did he maintain consistency between the movies? Yeah, he did change things up a little. That's how any story goes. When you go look at the early drafts versus the final product, there is a lot of changes. But that's it. That's all. So this is the Cringe Factor article. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And I say that with love. Let's see here. And YouTube replay and they said it does not violate any regulations. In other words, the shills have failed and we won. Okay. So I have looked I want to see that announcement or whatever. So YouTube replay and they said it's replied, not replayed, and they said it does not violate the regulations. Okay. Lucas said the stories continue in the novels and comics. Correct. Said it about the parents, kids, and grandkids. You are correct. And Star Wars Marvel Pura says Acolyte isn't LGBT. Blah blah blah. We don't even get to see the Scissor Fist clan in action. I love it that never left you guys' train of thought when I was going over the Dathomirian witches, the clans on Dathomir. That's hilarious. I love it. All right, Geeks and Gamers have confirmed. Okay, well, thank you for the update. I haven't seen anything on social media because I've been here with you guys. So thanks for the update. I can't wait to, view it myself. Pretty cool. With that being said, you guys, next week we are continuing on with, let me remove this, with the campaigns that Malgus has journaled down. And then again, if you know of these campaigns and you want to expand further on it, get your notes ready to go. And let's talk. We're in a good time. And again, Deceived is one of them books that it's not a book of the week. Maybe we could say it's honorary one. But Deceived is one. If you want to get more into Malgus and stuff like that, that is the book to go and check out. Book of the week is the Star Wars annotated screenplay. So that's one source that I highly recommend, especially to counter bullshit people like Thomas Bacon Grease. Yeah, because he proved that he doesn't know anything about the development in George Lucas's Star Wars, basically, and how lore and being consistent. Yeah, there's always hiccups, especially in such a big, huge franchise this is. There's always going to be hiccups. That happens. We're human, right? We're human. He's human. And he cared about the lore basically by having everything tie into each other some way, somehow kind of deal. So thank you guys again. Catch me probably Friday night on Tim's channel for the spacing. I don't know the topics yet. We might get more into this manifesto bullcrap thing that happened on Twitter against a few channels. We might talk about that. And tonight, jump on and listen to support Raging Rhino for Casual Rage. I'm pretty sure he'll have his own insight on all of this that had happened and occurred. And so continue to support the channels you love. Return time and time again when you can, or catch the replays. If you're catching the replays and you made it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate you as well. Become channel members of these channels you frequently visit. This makes it a lot easier, especially now that StreamYards is doubling their price subscription to use their services. So, how about support that way, you guys? And thank you again so much for your time sitting with me, chatting the lore. I've been enjoying going through the Sith history, and stay tuned for next week. And in the meantime, you guys have a great Thursday, and may the Force be with you. Talk to you later.
Another happy landing.
Jedi is something that came a little later. When we started building Jedis, we had a lot of Jedis, and we needed more and more Jedis. As we were doing them toward the end, we ended up with a lot of Jedis that looked like people that worked at ILM, with these short little haircuts and looked like they stepped out from behind a computer. And so I was saying we have to get more exotic Jedis, and so we only have so much resources to do these things with, but I do have Twi'leks because we use them quite a bit in other areas in the Senate and as background action. So I have a sort of a wardrobe and a setup of certain kinds of characters. So it was a way of reinventing some of those characters. And I had realized that we had a comic book that has a Twi'lek in it that is a Jedi. There's a whole series actually of her. And I said, well, why don't we put her in this? I mean, she's a comic character, but we'll just fit her in and have her be a background character because that's exotic. That's how the Twi'lek Jedi ended up in the backgrounds of these shots, was to try to use some of the work and effort that the guys in the comic book world had put into things and characters they had created.